Welcome to Manor Lords, a new game set in the medieval time that combines city building and strategic combat. Starting with little more than a few tents and a small pile of food, we'll guide our people as they establish a place to call home. We'll have to manage the needs of our people, the threat of bandits and barbarians, trade and diplomacy with other rulers, and the brutality of nature, as we construct a humble hamlet and grow it into a thriving realm. This series is meant to act as a beginner's guide mixed with a let's play as we explore all this game has to offer. My name is Tacoba, and this is Manor Lords. Let's get into it. Where others see trouble, we see potential. These lands will become rich and prosperous under our skillful management. Reach large town settlement to achieve victory. Prosperity awaits. Excellent. And now we can start to take stock of our surroundings and come up with a plan for how we are going to create a thriving village here. Now up in the left-hand corner, we can see that we have 5 unassigned families. The family is sort of the basic unit in Manor Lords of population, and having 5 unassigned means that we have 5 people that we could assign different jobs to once we give them a workplace. Next to our family count, we have our housing details. We currently have 0 houses built, which gives us an available living space of -5, and that homelessness is going to cause some issues for us, so we'll need to build some houses fairly quickly. And we can see the breakdown of our families as well. Now, next to that is our approval rating. We want to do our best to keep that above 50%. It's going to dip a little bit at the beginning because of the homelessness, but we should be able to restore it and manage it just fine. And then public order, which has to do with the odds of our people sort of abandoning us and turning to banditry. I'm not really worried about that. I think we'll be fine there. Next up, we have our regional wealth. This represents the amount of money held by the people of this region that we can use for upgrading their homes or purchasing livestock. And then this barrel indicates our supplies, and it shows that we have 3 months of supplies. Now we actually have closer to 4 months of supplies. We have 5 families. And over here on the right, we can see we have 20 pieces of food. Each family will consume 1 food per month. But there is a small amount of spoilage, so it's reasonable we might run out of food in 3 months' time. So that sort of tells us what our first priority is going to be, and that is to find some food. Now we can zoom out and take a look at our surroundings. See that we have a rich fish pond right nearby, so that will probably be an excellent source of early food. And we have a rich stone deposit, as well as small deposits of clay, iron, and wild animals. And so those wild animals can be hunted for food and for pelts. Now, as our first task is to provide food for our people, let's start off by gathering fish from the nearby fish pond. So we'll go into our construction menu with C, and we can go ahead and find the fisherman's hut and set that up right near the pond. By holding down the left mouse button, we can rotate this, and we want the structure sort of facing out away from the pond so that it can connect to a road. And then we can go ahead and connect a road to the front of that building and bring that on down and connect that to the main road. And with that blueprint placed, our people will set about getting to work building it for us. All right, excellent. Our construction is finished. It looks like we've gotten 2 new messages in the meantime. It looks like Hildebot von Barenroot has heard of our renown and seeks only to defend his rights and honor those who would wrong him. Hope we will not judge him by the rumors. Let's go ahead and write back and say he has no rightful claim to Selbitz and Hofstetten. Now, our other message says that we've received reports of a band of raiders roaming nearby. Let's go ahead and track their movements, and it looks like they'll be here in a little under a year, so we will need to plan for that and do our best to be ready for them. Now that we have our fisherman's hut constructed, we can go ahead and assign a family to that, and they will begin gathering fish from this shoal, which should give us plenty of food to last us through the first year. It means we can focus on other things. Now, most buildings are going to be built out of timber, and we only have 6 timber. We can gather more timber with a logging camp, so let's go ahead and set up a logging camp nearby. And this has to be one of the first buildings you set up in any new game. All right, and with our logging camp done, let's go ahead and assign a couple of families to that. Now, construction is handled by unassigned families, so we don't want to put all of our families to work immediately, because we want to have at least one family that can build our structures for us as we continue to do new things. Now that we're gathering some food and have construction materials sorted out, our next priority should be setting up storage for our food and for our other resources. That's done in the logistics panel of the construction menu, and we'll want to set up a granary as well as a storehouse. Now we want the granary to be fairly close to our food supplies, so we'll set it along the main road here where people from the fisherman's hut can simply bring their food right down to the granary, which will then distribute it to the people. We're also going to want to set up a storehouse, and we'll go ahead and set this up just right across the road there, and get both of those built. All right, and with our granary and storehouse all squared away, let's go ahead and assign workers to those, which will allow them to take the various supplies that are in our resource stockpile here and move them into storage so they'll be a little bit slower to spoil and are less likely to be damaged by the rain. Now, while they do that, let's think about how we might want to start laying out our town. Now, our resource deposits for iron and clay are very small and very temporary. They won't last long. So we have the capacity to use this land for other things. If we go into our construction menu, you can see the overlays. You can see we have some water that flows along here. This is where we'll be able to build wells, but none up here on this hill, at least not until we get right up to the top of the hill. And if we go into our fertility panels, we can see that we don't have very good fertility for crops. A little bit better for rye, but even still not great. And so it doesn't look like we'll be doing a whole lot of farming in this region either, which means we're going to have to find other sources of materials for food, for clothing, and for trade. Now, the fish will be an excellent source of both early game food and trade, but it won't last forever. And similarly with our wild game over here, that can provide just a little bit of food and some early game hides for clothing. But as it's a normal deposit, unless we choose to invest heavily into hunting, that is going to be pretty limited for us. That said, we can take advantage of it, so let's go ahead and go into our gathering tab and set up a hunting camp, and we can set that hunting camp to be right over here off the main road, but a little bit closer to wild game on that side, and we'll set a road that runs out the main road so that anybody we assign there can start working. Now our supplies have all been gathered up, but we don't have any homes, so we don't actually need anybody else working in the storehouse or granary just yet. After a time, workers at the storehouse and granary will distribute to houses, but as we don't have any houses constructed, we can withdraw them to build our hunting camp and start to build our homes. Now we've been gathering timber and we have quite a bit. Let's go ahead and pull a family off of the logging camp as well and start setting up some houses. Now the region we're in is relatively flat. It does seem to come downhill a little bit here, right to the region border, but I think we're going to build our houses right in this sort of central region where they'll have easy access to all of the different things we are focusing on right now. But we do want them to be close to water, and we can see that we have our water line here. So let's go ahead and set up a well, and then let's construct our houses. And those look perfect. Now, when we build houses, you'll see a number of icons here. The large square icon indicates the location for the main house, and then the second small icon with a plus shows that we can have a second home built in the same space, or a second living space built in the same area. We can increase or decrease the number of houses in the plot we've chosen by using the plus and minus buttons here. So by adding another home there, we remove the ability for there to be 3 houses in this space. I like the idea of having 2 houses with expansion places here, so we'll go ahead and construct that. Now, in addition to those icons, you can see we also have the backyard expansion space on each of these. We want to make sure the plots are deep enough that we allow that on pretty much every house we build, because that's going to allow us to set up additional food sources or something that will allow the house to fulfill a more advanced job later on, like a bakery or a blacksmith. Let's go ahead and get these 2 houses built. All right, and we have our 2 burgage plots and our well constructed. If we look in the corner, we now see that we have 2 homes constructed and are down to just minus 3 living spaces. We only have 3 homeless families. If we select one of these burgage plots, we could expand them to house a second family, but I think for now we want to actually build some additional plots. Now we're going to have all 5 of our burgage plots in a row, but I want the central burgage plot to have a very large backyard because we're going to turn it into a sort of farm. So we're going to go ahead and lay down the foundation for the front of that. And I think just like that should be good. So we'll build that, but let's pause the game before it actually gets constructed. And let's set up the next 2 houses. Now, these ones don't have the room for the extra family. That's just fine. We can always build more houses later. Let's go ahead and tear down this central burgage plot because we don't want that built just yet. Let's get these other 2 houses constructed. All right, and with those 2 houses completed, we're down to just a single homeless family, and we are getting into a very good position here. Now, our final burgage plot is going to sort of fill this space with a large vegetable garden in the backyard. So let's go ahead and lay out some roads to accommodate that. Now, in order to map out how large we want this to be, we can use corpse pits. These are sort of free structures that we can delete after we've used them to plot out the land, but we want to create a space that's about 3 corpse pits big. So let's go ahead and set one of those there, and let's set another one just a little bit behind our current house. I think that'll be just fine. Then we can use our roads to create bordering space for this and connect that out to the main road and delete those corpse pits. So we are going to use that space for an additional burgage plot. Now, if we select each of these houses, we can take a look at what the house needs, as well as a few other options we have with it. We can see that the house wants access to water, as well as a church. We need to see that it needs access to a fuel supply, a food supply with 2 sources of food, and a clothing supply. Up at the top, we have an option to upgrade it once we have the materials and have met sort of all of the requirements for it. We also have the ability, if we've made the plot large enough, to expand the living space and invite an additional family to move in. Finally, we have our backyard extension menu. This is where we can add something like a vegetable garden or a chicken coop to the house to help it produce some food, or we can convert the house once it's been upgraded into a workshop for making bread, tools, clothing, ale, or weapons. Now, for now, we're going to be focused on making food and making a variety of kinds of food for our people to eat. And to that end, we are going to start by creating this plot with a large backyard that will become a sort of mini vegetable farm for us. So let's go ahead and lay out our plot. And then we can go ahead and wrap that around just like so. And that looks perfect. Look at the size of that backyard. That is going to be fantastic for our vegetable plot. So let's go ahead and get this constructed, get our final family moved in, and then we can take stock of where we are at. All right, we have leveled up our settlement. We have reached the small village level. We've gotten a new message. It says a strong militia is paramount to the survival of any settlement. Luckily, a shipment of weapons has just arrived, and you'll be able to create our first militia banners to serve and protect our people. Right, it looks like some spears and some shields have been added to our storehouse, so we can use those in the defense of our people. But let's take a minute and see what we have going on here. Now, we have 5 houses and 5 families. That's excellent. Our approval rating dipped because of homelessness, but that should recover soon. We have basic logging industry with a large supply of timber, so we can continue building buildings. We have a storehouse and a granary with plenty of food in it, enough food to last for over a year, and a fisherman's hut with a very rich supply of fish, so we should run into little trouble there. If we do need more food, or if we want to start gathering hides, we can assign people to hunt, and so I think we are in a really good place. Now, with all of the basics sorted out, let's go ahead and take a look at one of our houses and see what we can do to provide for our people. Now, they want water access. We constructed a well attached to the road, so that provides water access to up to 15 plots. As we have 5 plots, that is just fine. They're also going to need access to a church. We'll come back to that in a little bit. For now, though, we need access to a fuel stall and a food stall with 2 kinds of food. Now, in order to have stalls, we need a marketplace, and a marketplace is constructed and is going to be supplied by workers at the storehouse, and at the granary. So let's go ahead and construct a marketplace there and assign families to work the storehouse as well as the granary. Those workers will set up stalls at the marketplace and will start providing food and goods to our people. All right, with our marketplace set up, if we select one of our homes, we can see that we are now providing fuel and food to our people. However, we're pretty limited in fuel. We don't have very much, just 9 firewood left. So I think we need to go ahead and set up a woodcutter's camp. Now, this is different from a logging camp, and this will chop wood for firewood. And we can set this up right next to our storehouse, so the people working there will have a nice short sort of logistics trip there. All right, and with our woodcutter's lodge finished, we can go ahead and assign someone to start working there and start gathering enough fuel to see us through the remainder of the year. All right, now our population has begun to be stretched a little bit thin, so I think it's time for us to expand one of our homes by adding an additional living space to it. And we can actually do this on a couple of different homes. We certainly have the timbers for it, so let's go ahead and get these extra house structures assembled. All right, and with those houses constructed, we now have room for additional families. We have available living space. And so if at the end of the month, our approval rating is over 50%, then there's a chance a new family will move in. And that's good because our families are stretched a little bit thin right now. Let's go ahead and assign our last unassigned family to the hunting camp to start gathering some meat and hides. And while they're doing that, let's take another look at our houses. In particular, I want to pay attention to this food stall supply indicator. This indicates that we need to have 2 types of food available at the market stalls. And if we select our market stall, we can see that there's 5 bread and 5 fish being stored there. Now, each month, a family will take one of those items at random. But as long as there are 2 kinds of items being provided, the houses are going to be happy. The problem with that is that we are pretty limited on bread. We have 107 fish, but only 3 bread. And even though it's random, with 5 families and potentially 3 more coming soon, we will eventually get through our 8 bread, and we'll then only have fish on offer, and we will lose that second diamond. So we need to secure a second type of food. Now, there are a number of options for this. Meat from our hunting camp is going to be one of those once we get some meat being gathered. We could also plant some farms, or the houses themselves can provide some food for us, and that's what we're going to focus on now. See, this large central plot has this large backyard for a reason, and we are going to construct a vegetable garden there. This will use a bit of our regional wealth, but the family that lives here, when they're not working elsewhere, will plant and harvest vegetables, and with a large yard, they'll produce more than that family needs. This plot should provide enough vegetables to properly feed about 10 families, or provide that sort of secondary food source for about 20 families. And we can see our people setting about planting those crops in their vegetable garden. One thing we can do is we can take a look at the people there and see what their job is. They are firewood cutters. As we have 12 months of food, we can go ahead and unassign them. We don't really need additional woodcutters at this time. And with that family unassigned, then they can plow their vegetable field, and if we start to do more construction, they can help with that. Now, it looks like our hunting camp has started to produce some meat and some hides. They, along with the granary and storehouse workers, will start bringing those things over into storage. Now, those hides can be converted to meet one of our house's other needs, the clothing supply. That's going to require a tanner, and constructing a tanner will require planks, which we don't have yet. So let's go ahead and go into our gathering tab and set up a saw pit. Now, a saw pit is going to take timber and turn it into planks. However, we do want this built fairly close to our logging camp so that we don't have a long commute for that. Let's go ahead and construct our saw pit right there. right, and with that saw pit constructed, we can now start to produce planks. It also looks like another family has moved into one of our burgage plot extensions. That's excellent. Let's go ahead and assign a family to our saw pit. Now, as we're not actively gathering additional lumber, we do want to limit how much lumber gets turned into planks, and we can do that in the saw pit. We can say we want to set a reserve of timber of, let's say, 6 timber. That means that we'll make sure to hold at least 6 timber in reserve. If we don't have 6 timber in reserve, we won't turn any into planks. And for planks, let's go ahead and set a cap on that of, say, 40. So if we do have a bunch of timber, we won't just mindlessly be turning it into planks and using up all of our storage space. Now our hitching post is sort of stuck out here in the middle of the field. Let's go ahead and move that also to be over on a road. So that'll just be something a family needs to swap over real quick. All right, we've started to get a few planks, and that means that we have the resources we need to go into our industry tab and construct a tanner. Now, a tanner is going to take hides and turn them into leather, and they're going to be working with the storehouse. So let's go ahead and run a road that leads a little bit back from that storehouse and into these trees. And we will set up a tanner right back there. Now this is something we may want to move at a later time, because if we look at our overlays, we can see there's a smell overlay, and tanners in real life work with some pretty gnarly chemicals. So we probably want that right next to our houses, but that is not functional in this game yet. So we can go ahead and set that right next to our storehouse so that the goods are moved quickly and easily, and we don't run into any logistics issues. Let's go ahead and get our tannery built and take a look at what we can do with it. All right, with our tannery constructed, we can now assign a person to work there, and they will start drawing hides out of our storehouse and turning them into leather. Now, if we select our common goods stall, we can see it's now stocking leather, and that means that our houses should now have their clothing stall supply need met. The last thing they need is access to a church. All right, we've received a notification that a bandit camp has been sighted. As we have bandits enabled, they can periodically spawn in ours or another region. It looks like there are some bandits a couple regions over. Once we raise an army, we may want to go clear out that bandit camp. And until we do, we are going to have to deal with bandits occasionally raiding our supplies. All right, it looks like we've had another family move in, and summer has turned to fall. The seasons mostly affect farming, but there are a few other things they affect. In springtime, our fish shoal will grow, and our animals will reproduce a little bit faster. If we lived in a place with berry bushes, those would also replenish during the spring. But after summer sets in, those numbers stop growing, and we've reached sort of the maximum supply for the year. Now we can see that our logging camp has done a pretty good job of deforesting the area immediately around it, and our woodcutter's lodge has also started to do the same. So we may want to set up another structure, and let's set a road right back over here, and then connect that over near our fishing hut. And let's build a forester's camp on that road. Forestry is another job that is affected by seasons, in that it can't be done during the winter. It can be done during the other 3 months of the year, but during the winter, the foresters sort of remain idle. Let's get this forester's hut built. Now, Forester's Hut plants trees, and if we assign someone to that, they will start to wander around the area around the hut and start planting trees. Now, by default, they'll sort of stick to the area just immediately around the hut, but we can go into the Advanced tab and assign them a work area, which will have them wander a little further afield. It's quite a small circle. If we hold Control and mouse wheel up, we can assign them a larger work area, and we can go ahead and tell them we want to reforest anywhere within that circle. And so now the foresters during the spring, fall, and winter will wander around, and when they find room for a tree, they will go ahead and start planting a tree there. Now, trees take a few years to grow, so with a large area, they will eventually sort of offset the work of a logging camp and a woodcutter's lodge, and just ensure that we always have enough resources to last. Now we've also gathered enough resources to construct a church, and I think I want to turn this into a sort of little hamlet, with this being a sort of city central area with a houses here, and then like a central town courtyard around a church in this area, and then more houses down at the bottom of the hill and off to the side. We'll have our church located on the main road, I think. Just like so. All right. And our church has been built, and while it was being built, we had another new family move in as well. That is fantastic. All right, we have received warning that winter is approaching, so we want to make sure we have enough food to last through the winter, and we do. We have over a year's supply of food as well as fuel, so we are going to be doing just fine. And we may also want to assign some people to the logging camp to gather some wood. Because if we take a look at our houses, we can see that we have now met all of their needs, and that means we can upgrade them. So let's go ahead and select one of these houses and upgrade it to level 2. Excellent. And with that house upgraded to level 2, we can now see we can assign the backyard plot to any of the workshops we have unlocked. We can also see that we have a number of new needs that need to be satisfied. They need ale from a tavern. They need access to a nicer church, a stone church. They need a third type of food and a second type of clothing, and in particular an advanced type of clothing. So those are all things that we will have to solve to supply for our level 2 plots. However, a level 2 also comes with a few added benefits. In particular, it's going to start generating some revenue for the region. We'll start adding to our regional wealth. And they also have more storage space, and that's going to be important for our family with the large vegetable plot, so that the food can be stored in the home before it's taken to the granary. Let's go ahead and select one of our other plots and upgrade that as well, and that should be enough to level up our settlement. We've reached the small village settlement. When we have a total of 5 plots with 2 of them at level 2, we will reach the medium village settlement level, and that will be excellent because that will give us some additional development points. Fantastic. Our settlement level has increased yet again, so we now have 2 development points we can spend. We'll take a look at those here in a little bit, but winter is setting in, which means we can go ahead and withdraw people from our sort of winter limited jobs. Our shoal of fish is freezing. We won't be able to gather any more fish. Fortunately, we don't. And our foresters also won't work in the winter, so we have some unassigned families there. But fortunately, we have enough food and fuel to last us through the winter, and we will also continue gathering a little bit of food through the hunting camp. We could also shore up our food supplies by investing some of our regional wealth into our other homes. The other burgage plot extensions have the option of producing food. So for example, a chicken coop or an animal pen uses planks as well as a bit of regional wealth to produce food. Now, a chicken coop is actually probably the single strongest extension. It'll actually provide enough food for a single family all by itself. So if you have a bunch of burgage plots with one family in each, you can give them a chicken coop at the cost of 2 planks and 20 silver pieces each. And they will sort of be able to supply for themselves forever. And so we could do that, for example, on some of these. Now, I don't want to do that on every single structure because we may want some of these, once they're upgraded, to turn into, for example, a cobbler's workshop and produce shoes from the spare leather that we have. So we don't necessarily want to do that everywhere, but it's good to do on a few homes because that will ensure that those families are able to sort of help diversify the food supply a little bit, which is an important part of ensuring that we meet their requirements. Now, as winter sets in and our people start to settle down into a little bit of a quieter lifestyle over a few months, we need to start preparing for our bandit attack. And so in order to do that, we can organize a militia by creating a new militia unit. Now we have 20 spears and 20 shields, and those are the requirements to create a new spear militia. So we'll go ahead and create a new spear militia. And hopefully that militia will be enough, but just in case it's not, let's go ahead and get started constructing a manor. Now, a manor is found in the administration tab, and we can see that's going to require some additional planks as well as some stone. Now, unfortunately, we are all out of stone and we don't have quite enough planks, so we can assign one family to the sawmill in order to make sure that we're producing those planks, but then we're also going to want to set up a stone mining pit here near our stone deposit. So let's go ahead and get that constructed. All right, and with our stone cutter camp completed, we can assign a family to work there and start gathering some stone. Now, while they gather the stone, I want to start plotting out where we might want to put our manor. I like the idea of having a small hamlet down here. Like I said, I want to build some additional residencies down here and over on this side of the road as well, and just sort of build a small population center there. And I like the idea of having the lord of the region live up on the hill. We've got this iron deposit here, but that won't last forever once we start mining it. So we can go ahead and set a road that sort of snakes around the pond up here to this spot on the hill. I think that's where we are going to build our manor. Go ahead and set our manor down right there. And we could go into building walls and gates and towers and turrets, and we may want to do that later, but for now we can go ahead and simply start constructing. Looks like we've already gathered the stone we need, so we can unassign the family from there, so we'll have plenty of laborers to get this manor constructed. That's going to give us access to a few more forces just in time for our raider attack. Go ahead and get it built. And just in time, our manor is completed, which has given us a retinue to aid our local militia if we want. And the raiders have been spotted nearby. Let's go ahead and see if we can find them. It looks like they're actually raiding into the other ruler's territory. So we may not have to deal with this at all either, as his army has also been sighted and may be moving to deal with it. However, we may want to take out one of the bandit camps, as another bandit camp has moved in. Let's go ahead and keep an eye on these bandits and see where they go. I think they're going to be moving to attack us, and we'll just watch them closely and be ready in case they come into our town. Now, while that bandit army makes its way over into our lands, you can see that we have had 2 new families assigned to our town. Those are going to be families that live at the manor and are sort of supported by the manor. And we simply need to have the capacity to provide for them. That is the cost of having the manor, but it does grant us some extra military, as well as a few other abilities, which we will get into soon. However, the bandits have left our the other leader's territory, so it is time for us to go ahead and rally our militia. So we can go ahead and rally them, as well as our retinue out near the church. So let's give our people a little bit of time to assemble. We can now take our people and start moving to intercept these bandits. Try to meet them on the field before they reach our territory so that we can ensure that the rest of our people are safe. Move our retinue to attack from the side. And send our spearmen to attack. It looks like our forces are being victorious here. We have broken the ranks, and sent the bandits fleeing, which is excellent. Now, while we have our militia out, we may want to send them on over to take out one or both of these bandit camps. So let's go ahead and move on those bandit camps and see if we can't clear them out in order to sort of further protect our people. All right, we have broken their ranks, so we should be able to head on in and clear out that bandit camp with ease. All right, we have taken down the bandit camp, and we have gathered some spoils for war. We can send this. This will be money. We can either send this to our people or to our treasury. We're going to go ahead and assign it to our treasury. That'll give us some funding in case we need to request a militia, which we may want to do very soon. Go ahead and send our military over to handle the remaining bandit camp. Looks like the other ruler is also sending his people to do the same. But we are going to be the one that meets them in battle first. And so hopefully we will win the day. It does indeed look like we are going to win this battle. We've driven them back. So let's go clear out the bandit camp and gain the spoils. And similarly, we will go ahead and take the funds for our treasury. Now, part of the idea of that is that when we need a military in the future, we'll be able to hire mercenaries. And so we won't need to worry about taking people out of our town or settlement or depleting our own supplies. Let's go ahead and send our people back to their home region. And once they get there, we'll be able to disband the militia and our retinue, and they will return to their lives and their jobs. And I think that's where we are going to leave it for today. We have survived our first winter. We have a thriving town. We've successfully defended against our first raid and cleared out a couple of bandit camps. We have enough influence that if we want, we could press into another region. But I think before we do that, we have some more work we want to do here. So we will continue to work here next time. I'd like to thank you guys for spending a few minutes with me here in the world of Manor Lords. I hope you have found this beginner's guide helpful. Leave a like if you haven't, subscribe if you'd like to see more. My name is The Goba, and I hope you have an epic day. I'll see you soon.